Hi, my name is Ishmael and today we're going to be talking about selecting the type of property investor you want to be. So let's talk about the various strategies there are in property investing. You have basic single let or buy to let. So the fundamentals of a single let or a buy to let is that you buy a property and you let it out to one single tenant, one family, one person or one sort of entity. Now, this strategy is the easiest strategy to get into the property industry. They call it vanilla buy-to-let, where you save up a 25% or more deposit, you buy a house and you put a tenant in it. Generally a family, maybe if you're starting off small, you might buy a flat. More on flats in another video and why you shouldn't buy a flat. So once you've got your investment strategy, saying it's a single let, you put your deposit down. Once you have your deposit, you put your family in and you get a small return. So the average return for a single let in the UK would be something along the lines of this. The property price is £100,000 to purchase it. Now this might be a flat. In London you wouldn't be able to do this, but in the UK as a whole, £100,000 you can buy a house or a flat depending where you are, and you put a tenant in. Now the rent for that tenant will be somewhere between £500 and £600. Let's call it £500 a month. To buy that property you're going to need at least a 25% deposit, or you're going to need a total of 100% deposit to buy it for cash. More on why you should and why you shouldn't buy for cash versus mortgage in another video if you want to check that one out. So once you've got the property, you're going to be making £500 a month, let's say, and over the year it's around about £6,000. That's about 6% net return. That's just a vanilla buy-to-let, 6% yield. So we're not going to go into the details of calculating all these things out, we're just going to work on basic numbers. So do you want to do that? It's the easiest way, the least hassle and the quickest way to get into property if you have money. The next option is you do something like a HMO. So you buy the house and you put, it's a house of multiple occupants. So you buy the house and rather than renting it out to one family, you rent it out to multiple people. So you rent out a room by room basis. This is generally done for students. Most people have heard of it as student accommodation. You get a 4-bedroom house, you put 4 students in, 1 in each bedroom, you have 1 kitchen, you have 1 or 2 bathrooms, and you have different fire regulations. Now the reason you would do this is because you get more rent. So you could buy the same £100,000 house and you could put 4 tenants in it. Now rather than getting £500 for the whole house, you might get £400 per room. Now you're responsible for paying bills, so you wouldn't get 4 times 4, so you wouldn't get £1,600 a month in your pocket, but you would get £1,600 minus the bills and expenses that you have to pay as a landlord. So this is a way of getting higher rent for the same investment. Next off, you have a serviced accommodation. So again, you buy your £100,000 house. Now you buy in an area where there's a high demand for holiday lets or for workers, subcontractors who are coming in and out of the area regularly for business trips. So generally you want, if you're going for business investors or business clients, then you want it in a business area, so near business activities, in town centres, things like this. Otherwise you might be going for holiday let, in which case you want it near a holiday destination, near the beach, near walks, near mountains, near holiday activities for families. Now the reason you would do this is because you can rent it out on a nightly basis. A nightly basis being that you take the property and you put it on places like booking.com and Airbnb, which are the 2 big ones in the UK, or cottages.com if you want to rent it out on a weekly basis, and you rent it out on a nightly basis. So you rent the whole property out to someone for the night. So effectively you're running like a hotel business, but you rent out the whole property and you can get quite a lot of rent per night. Now you've got to take into account that the average property occupancy is around about 70-75% in the UK at the moment. If you rent it out like this, so you're not going to have it full every day, but you might be getting something like 50, 80, 100 pounds a night for the same investment. So you could potentially, if you had it fully occupied, be making £3,000 a month. Now you've got to clean your property, you've got to pay lots of different fees, more on that in other videos, and with that you can then make a higher profit again. But it's less guaranteed, you have short-term staff, tenants coming in and out every day or every 2 or 3 days. Now potentially the same property, same price, could potentially as a service accommodation be making you closer to even £1,500 a month if you can get it full. The next option is doing these businesses on a rent-to-rent basis. Now what does that mean? It means getting a landlord to agree to rent out the entire property to you, and then because you're guaranteeing him the rent or her the rent on that property for a fixed period of time, 3, 5, 7 years, then you rent it on either a HMO basis, so you put people in each room, or you rent it on a service accommodation basis, so you rent out the whole property on a nightly rate to short-term tenants. And the next strategy, which is the final strategy for domestic, generally houses, is where you do a deal sourcing business. You find a property that we've just spoken about with good returns, and you find someone who is looking for a property with good returns, and you match the two together and you get paid. Effectively you're an estate agent, but rather than working for the seller of the property, you work for the buyer of the property, get the buyer a great deal, and they'll pay you sometimes £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 for the property if you can find them a great deal. Now you've got to know what you're doing before you go and become a deal sourcer, or a sourcing agent, or a property buying agent, whatever you want to call them. There's lots of different names, but you've got to know what you're doing before you become one of them, because you have to know how to get a good deal. All of these things require you to have different compliances, all of them require different regulations and different insurances, and whether you run them through a business or in personal name, all of these things will be covered in other videos. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, whack that bell notification icon to get notified of videos coming out each and every week, so that you can learn about the property industry. And as from now on, I will be covering more about how you actually invest in property and more about the strategies behind investing in property rather than the property industry as a whole, which I've been covering over the last year and keeping people up to date with the corona updates and the various other updates. I will still be covering that, but I will be also now covering things like where to invest, how to invest, where to get started, step-by-step processes about what you need to do and what you should be doing in the property industry. So keep tuned for more amazing videos.